Hello everyone, this is Kat and welcome back to My Hero Academia Podfics. This will be the final part to the Mystery of Midoriya Izuku fic. This will be Chapter 13 entitled Day 1, Again. Shouta wakes to Hisashi singing in the shower and Bastard on his kidneys, demanding food. He arrived home from Midoriya's late last night after he and Problem Child spent hours discussing how to handle One for All going forward. Along with his plans, he showed Shouta some of his more detailed analyses within his hero journals and along with the cipher that he used for them. It's clever. The analysis is fantastic for a kid Izuku's age. Shouta plans on showing them to Nezu. It is his most brilliant idea in the world, probably not. It'll definitely sharpen something already impressive in Midoriya, though. Hopefully growing his analytical abilities will also show him to see his own worth outside of One for All as well. He wants Izuku to feel confident in himself, rather than just in his quirk. Nezu will jump at the chance for his analytical potential, and Shouta has that in the couple of notebooks that Midoriya allowed him to take. He closes his eyes for a moment, burying his face into his pillow. He breathes in and out, ignoring Bastard's demands for food for a precious couple more seconds. Shota's tired, the sort of exhaustion that nips at his heels following a completion of a case. That's what this feels like. A bone-deep wariness of a job well done. He solved many of the questions surrounding one of his most promising and frustrating students. The satisfaction thrums within him as he shuffles out of bed. Either way, the day stretches out to deal with heroes-to-be, and naps and his sleeping bag, and an early morning meeting to discuss Class 1A's pairings for the revamped first-term finals. But that's in the future. Simultaneously close and far, the morning, lazy as it can be in his life, keeps Shouta anchored in his present. Right now, Aizawa Shouta feeds his cat, starts the coffee, and listens to his husband sing in the shower. The sky is hazy, but the sort of morning haze that promises a blue sky later, once the sun has broken through. The puzzle is solved, and Shouta breathes. Midoriya and Yaoyorozu will go against me, Shouta tells his colleagues as he and Nezu present the exam pairings. Yaoyorozu's confidence took a hit during the sports festival. Midoriya's good at building people up and listening to ideas. Meanwhile, she'll get him to cool his more reckless tendencies. We want to encourage that he gives a couple of seconds of thought before diving in headfirst to a situation. I would have thought that Midoriya and Bakugo would have been paired together, Khan states thoughtfully, no judgment in his voice but curiosity, given how tense their rivalry is. And here it is. Shouta feels several sets of eyes land on him at that. He meets Hisashi's, who gives him a slight smile, an encouraging one. He holds that in his heart as he presents the findings of his past week in brief terms. No one needs to know everything. I've looked into Midoriya and Bakugo's relationship, amongst other things. We assumed that they were rivals. We were wrong, he says, voice calm and detached. Their relationship is that of a bully and his victim. Bakugo bullied Midoriya for years, with the teachers and students covering for him. His stay in the hero course is contingent upon his therapy, anger management sessions, and volunteer hours. He will be wearing quirk-suppressing bracelets outside of the necessary classes. He's also been suspended for 1 week, barring a session with Hound Dog today and cleaning up the design studio after school. Shouta meets the gazes of each of his colleagues. But let me make this clear. I do not want any of them paired together in any capacity for at least a year, maybe longer. And I will be making a note on his file about his bullying tendencies so that we can all watch for and curb them. His fellow teachers share grimaces. Many of them have unusual quirks which led to plenty of bullying growing up. They understand better than most and are probably kicking themselves for not figuring it out sooner. Todoroki and Bakugo will be paired together against All Might, Shouta explains once the moment passes, moving along without blinking. Though if anyone has a suggestion on this, I'm all ears. This matchup is only mildly better than Bakugo Midoriya, if only because I'm convinced that Todoroki would throw the match in order to see Bakugo fail. Thankfully, blessedly, Namuri jumps in at that. It would be good for them to get used to working with others they wouldn't mesh well in the field with. Eventually they decide on Todoroki and Kirishima against All Might, with Bakugo and Sato against Cementos. It would definitely be an interesting set of pairings, to say the least. And this is Midoriya-kun's work, you say? Nezu asks, as his paws flip through the notebooks after the other teachers departed from the early morning staff meeting. His black eyes alight with unrestrained glee, or as close to that as Shouta can see. The cipher is clever for someone his age. This is such a bad idea, but he cannot bring himself to regret it. Kid's been doing it since he was a toddler, apparently. He confirms instead, taking a sip of coffee. Nezu closes the book with a snap and a smile. Yamada said he was fluent in English, correct? Perhaps I'll tweak his schedule for the coming term, replace the English lessons for private tutelage from me, the principal says serenely. It's quite amazing that Midoriya-kun has that determination that he does. Otherwise he would have been a rather terrifying villain to go up against. And that's a thought that will probably appear in Shota's nightmares in the near future, a Midoriya Izuku so broken by the world that he turns to villainy instead. He wonders how close they were to that happening. Shota knows, partly, how close it was for him. Not that he would ever say it out loud, but a lot of heroes, the truly great ones, toe a line that could have easily tipped them to villainy. I'm going to bring up therapy to the kid in the near future, he says instead, pushing the fear of what could have been aside. I don't want to force too many changes on him too fast. He's resilient and strong, but no need to see how much newness we can pile on him. Until then, he knows he can come talk to me. All Might did mention that he told you about One for All, Nezu says, putting the journals aside for further examination later. Shota figured that the principal knew of One for All, but it was always good to have confirmation on that front. He takes another sip of coffee, considering his next words. When the new term starts, All Might, Mike, and I will be working with the kid on building up power percentage output. As I'm sure that you can remember, Mike had similar issues to Midoriya in terms of quirks too powerful to handle at times. I'm hoping to convince All Might and Midoriya to read Mike in on One for All in the coming weeks. For a loudmouth, he knows how to keep a secret. A smart move. Nezu approves with a nod, sipping his tea. He then meets Shota's eyes. I'm sorry that I couldn't tell you myself, Aizawa. Well then, it's rare that Nezu will actually apologize for something. Much like himself, the principal's more of an actions-speak-louder-than-words sort of person in terms of his own behavior. Shota's not even that mad at him. Not over One for All. It's a big secret with terrifying implications and consequences. He can understand why. Heroes, especially underground ones, carry secrets tattooed on their souls that they'll carry to their graves or, well, make an urban legend so that the knowledge is there, right in plain sight, but dismissed by most. I was more upset over the fact that I wasn't informed of how late the kid's quirk came in, he replies, looking at his mostly empty coffee cup. It's a big secret. A legend in the underground. I understand keeping this close to the vest, so to speak. There was no way for you to outright tell. Something clicks in Shota's head, a puzzle piece that he never considered. His eyes flick up and narrow at the principal. But you wanted me to find out, right? Didn't you? You couldn't tell me anything, but I figured out for myself, and that's different. Nezu chuckles. I have to admit that it was perhaps a bit of a gamble with Midoriya and Bakugo. There were several paths that you could have taken, including agreeing with the pairing and letting them go at it. This one, however, seemed to be the best. It, at the very least, gives Midoriya-kun another adult to trust, which sounds like it was quite rare for him. The Aldera case is going along swimmingly, by the way. Most of the service staff from Aldera were either referred by me to other schools or given postings at UA. Midoriya-san is quite the sharp paralegal, and the lawyer that she works for is more than willing to get justice. Shota takes a moment to consider. Nezu will not apologize again for the slight manipulation to get him to dig in on Midoriya's background, but, however, he will probably be willing to loosen Shota's leash, so to speak. I'd like a word with some of his teachers. Nezu gives him a slightly feral smile before sipping his tea. I'm sure that can be arranged. Shota sleeps through most of homeroom. He wakes to a smell of coffee and a soft, Sensei, it's time for ethics. He cracks his eyes open to see Midoriya staring down at him. Problem Child looks lighter, like a weight has been lifted off of his shoulders. In his hands he has a mug of coffee. I asked Ida, and he said it was okay, the kid says with a smile. Yayorozu-san made the mug. You look like you could use it. She told me what you liked. Shota sits up, unzips his sleeping bag, and takes the mug with his hands. Thanks, Problem Child. Midoriya's smile amplifies, a few wattages at that. Mido-kun is Lunch Rush's favorite, sings Ashito somewhere in the background. He always gives him extra portions. Problem Child rolls his eyes fondly and stands. It pays to be nice to everyone, but especially people in service jobs. Or do you want to deal with Aizawa-sensei being uncaffeinated? Shota stands and levels the class with his flattest, most deadpan expression as Midoriya slips in his seat behind Todoroki. Let me make it clear. You do not. He takes a sip of the coffee before looking at the 19 kids in his classroom. Right then, Shota says as he puts down the mug. Let's see if we can make you all into half-decent heroes. Bakugo appears in front of Shota later after they break for lunch. He's dressed in the street clothes for his meeting with Hound Dog, baggy jeans and a t-shirt with a skull on it. Shota could not be more surprised if he tried. He's scowling with some bags under his eyes like he hadn't slept well. Shouta takes a few minutes to clean up his papers before pinning Bakugo with his gaze. Yes. His student takes out a note and holds it out in front of him. The name of the shrink that my parents are making me go see. In case you want to, I don't fucking know, check in or something. Well then, good on Bakugo's for moving quickly then. Shouta plucks the paper from the suspended student's hand. He wonders if Bakugo timed this so he didn't have to run into any student from 1A, if he didn't have to run into Midoriya. Is that it? Community service? Bakugo growls out, tired red eyes narrowed. So he did get the email about the added stipulation. At a suicide prevention center, he replies, meeting his gaze evenly. I know what you said to Midoriya back in middle school, Bakugo. Frankly, I was more than ready to forego what I had worked out with your parents and outright expel you, but Midoriya's the victim, your victim, and I have to take his wishes into account here. I want you to understand just what could have happened if he took your advice to heart. He doesn't break eye contact with Bakugo, who looks so pale like he's seen a ghost. He swallows and tries to rally himself, clenching his fists, and like he wants to explode, but of course he can't. Not with those bracelets on his wrist. Instead, he grounds out. I don't fucking get why you're so fixated on this. No, Shouta supposes that he wouldn't, given how he and Midoriya were both treated growing up. He sits on the edge of the desk and considers. I should have addressed this months ago. I'll always kick myself for not doing it earlier. Let me be clear, no one in your life did you any favors, Bakugo. And if you want to be a half-decent person, never mind a hero, then you need to understand that. I think that you're already understanding it. I'm treating you as your teacher should have treated you growing up. Actions have consequences, and I want you to consider yours. Now, I believe you have a session with Hound Dog, and then you'll be reporting to Powerloader for cleanup detail. Bakugo scowls at the dismissal and heads to the door. I have one more question, Shouta says, which stops the blonde in his tracks. Your fellow classmates put red spider lilies on Midoriya's desk. Were you one of them? Midoriya says that he never wants to know the answer, but Shouta can admit to his own sense of morbid curiosity, though if the answer is yes, it may be what ends Bakugo's prospective hero career permanently. The boy pauses at the door, face downturned. He looks exhausted and small, like the one question drained all the fight out of him. His voice is so uncharacteristically subdued that Shouta believes what comes out of his mouth. No, but I didn't fucking stop them from doing it either. That's pretty fucked up, isn't it? The silence hangs there for a moment before Bakugo turns and straightens and stomps off. It's with that quiet admittance that Shouta thinks they may be able to make a halfway decent person of that kid after all. Maybe, just maybe, he could even be a hero. The rest of the day goes smoothly enough for Shouta, who witnessed a heartwarming reunion between Midoriya and Ueda in the hallway. Ueda in his brand new uniform for the UA custodial staff, directing his various robots. Midoriya eagerly congratulating him, while flanked by his friends, introducing them to Ueda, who Midoriya insists is one of the best janitors in the city. With school over, however, it's time to get back to physical training with Shinso, who should be sufficiently recovered from his illness to train without feeling like he's going to lose his lunch. He's surprised when his protege appears, with Midoriya and Todoroki trailing after. Though maybe he shouldn't have been. Shinso met Problem Child and his friends at the door of the classroom for 1A, and they had lunch together. Shota's eyebrows ticks up when he sees that the duo is holding hands. A blush dusts over Midoriya's face, which is pink, making his freckles stand out all the more. Todoroki looks completely at ease, like he's always held Midoriya's hand, and other people are idiots for never noticing it. It's a good tactic. Shouta did the same when he and Hizashi had started dating. He's not going to comment on it, though. Given how Midoriya was acting a couple of nights ago, it's pretty easy for Shouta to put one and one together to get two. He wishes them all the happiness in the world, quietly, in his heart. He does not want or need to get involved with student relationship drama. Shouta barely had enough patience for that when he was 16. Instead, Shouta turns to look at Shinso, who stares back unrepentantly. I was hoping that we could experiment with my quirk a bit today, Sensei. Midoriya had some questions and suggestions on it. If it's too last minute, Aizawa-sensei, we could do it another time. The green-haired boy pipes up, looking between the two. No. Shouta waves off the statement. Quirk training would be a good way to ease into things. He can always get Shinso tangled up in his old capture weapon tomorrow. Nostalgic and hilarious now that he's a teacher. It's a good idea, Shinso. Midoriya. Are you sitting in as well, Todoroki? Yes, the other student says, face set in his usual stare. I'm the guinea pig. He volunteered, Problem Child says brightly. So I can observe better. Shinzo-kun has a lot of potentially great applications for his quirk. It's very versatile. And Todoroki here wants to be near his boyfriend. Shinzo teases before going into his stretches. Midoriya turns bright red. Todoroki's mouth ticks upwards. I don't need to know about their romantic lives, Shinzo, he says with a sigh. The other boy scoffs at that. Like Mike-sensei and Midnight-sensei aren't the biggest gossips in the school. He's not wrong. Hizashi will pair students for projects if he thinks that they have crushes on each other in order to be a matchmaker. Nemuri will as well, except she forces love triangles together for her own amusement. Shouta does not get it, but whatever makes his husband and his friend happy, he supposes, so long as they deal with the fallout. Fair enough, he agrees, and Midoriya lets out a laugh at that. Training is running through Midoriya's various theories about Shinzo's quirk. Tomorrow he'll send the kid to Nezu so that they can talk about the private lessons for the coming term. Currently, Problem Child and Hitoshi are sitting together, discussing the results while Todoroki goes to get some water. Shouta watches the scene with something like pride in his chest. Thank you. Shouta hears behind him. He turns to see Todoroki looking at him, his heterochromatic eyes focused on him, a reusable water bottle in his hand and an iced coffee in the other. I don't know what you're thanking me for, Todoroki. The boy tilts his head to the side. You helped Midoriya. He's unused to that. From people, from other kids, from adults. It goes unsaid, but Shouta hears it loud and clear. He decides to test his luck a bit with one of his most reserved students. You've been protecting him from Bakugo. When I can, Todoroki agrees, before offering the iced coffee from one of the nearby vending machines. He feels safer, now, about a lot of things. It's amazing what you did in a week, Sensei. I'm impressed. Shouta looks over to where Midoriya waves his hands excitedly at Shinzo, who watches with a slight upturn of his lips. Todoroki's gaze softens into something gentle, something that, months ago, he wouldn't expect to see on the kid. He and Todoroki stand side by side for a moment before the boy speaks again. He says I can trust you as well, that you would help me if I asked. You can, Shouta says, not looking at him, both of them face forward. I would do anything to help my students. The silence sits between them, heavy and expectant. Even take on one of the top 10, Todoroki questions, taking a long drink of water. There's no hesitation. Yes. There's a nod of red and white hair. I'll keep that in mind, Aizawa-sensei. I think I believe that you would do anything. Shouta eyes Todoroki, feeling like this is a mirror to his conversation with Nezu this morning. Just how many people were testing him? You were waiting for me to notice, weren't you, about Midoriya? I was. I don't blame you. We had an interesting first term, and he's very good at hiding things. We're alike in many ways, Midoriya and I. It's probably why we get each other so well. That answer twists something in Shota's gut. Do you want to talk about it? After exams. His student replies, I don't want any distractions right now, but he trusts you, so I will too, but let's get through the exams first. Todoroki ends the conversation with that statement, standing up and walking over to Midoriya and Shinzo. Shouta feels an impending shit show surrounding the number 2 hero on the horizon, but he finds that he can't really regret it. He always hated Endeavor, and his flaming beard that was less of an intimidation tactic and more of a way to make him look like a giant douchebag. He'll definitely bring it to Nezu, though. Maybe taking down the number 2 hero will get both him and Hizashi time off so that they could go vacation somewhere. Only when everything is calm for his students, though. Hizashi texts him when he gets out of training with Shinzo, announcing his discovery of the hot chocolate while stopping at home briefly and how it was the best thing ever. He's at the station now, promising a surprise for Shouta later, and also will be picking up dinner on his way home after the radio show. Best husband ever. Midoriya and Todoroki left about an hour ago, allowing Shouta to go over more of the binding claw style with his student. Despite being laid up for the past week, Shinzo's body remembers the moves that he had previously learned, meaning minimal tangles. Good. It shows that the training's sinking in. Sometimes you need to rely on muscle memory over your brain, which Shouta loathes, but that's the truth. All in all, though, he feels like it was a pretty fruitful training session. Ah, Aizawa! Yagi calls as Shouta walks to the gate to leave for the day. Despite the hour, the summer sky remains bright in the evening, with hours to go before the sky paints itself soft colors and plunges into night. He's in his true form, skinny and scarecrow-like in the slightly bagging blue shirt. Yagi, Shouta greets, slowing his steps for the man to catch up to him. Do you need anything?
Young Midori talked with me about reading Yamada in at the end of lunch today, the blonde said with a tired smile. He was very passionate about allowing him in on the training, and, well, it's time for him to choose who to tell about his quirk, so I'm trusting his judgment. Hisashi may act like an idiot, but he knows how to keep a secret, Shouta agrees. The man never breathed a word about their marriage, after all. Plus, he's soft for a problem child. Yagi turns a bit soft at that, a fond smile on his face. He does have that way about him, doesn't he? You sound like a doting parent. The #1 hero's face flushes at that, and he rubs the back of his neck. He's a good kid. I was very lucky to have met him, even if I botched it up big at first. Shouta thinks about what Midori told him about the previous night, about All Might's words, and stops in his tracks. He would have been able to do it, you know, Shouta says with a sudden fierceness. He needs Yagi to understand here. Become the first hero without a quirk. Yagi smiles a bit wanly. Yes, I do. I know that now. Forgive me. I was thinking of another quirkless boy, looking up to someone and wanting to be a hero, and I was thinking of all the hurt it caused him. Himself, Shouta realizes it. Yagi was thinking of himself at that age, standing where Midoriya stood. Normally he wouldn't say anything else, just accept it and move on. Damn it, though, Shota's attached now, even more than he already was in regard to this group of kids, especially Problem Child. I think it would mean a lot to him if you tell him that, about your quirklessness and that you think he could have done it. Blue eyes blink. You think so? He nods sharply once. That's all you're getting from me in terms of parental advice. Yagi snorts and grins. I wouldn't expect anything else from you, Aizawa. I'll have young Midori join us for lunch tomorrow, and we can talk with Yamada then. Good, the sooner that they can get Hisashi read into things, the better that they can prepare Problem Child's training plan. Shouta nods. All right. Good night, Yagi. The man grins and waves, heading off to his car. Have a safe patrol tonight, Aizawa. Shouta walks home, enjoying the late afternoon sunshine on his hair when someone knocks into him. He reaches out without thinking and tries to steady the person. It's the kid, the other quirkless kid that he saw with Midori a week ago, who's breathing hard with wild eyes and scrapes on his palms. His brown hair falls into his face, with eyes staring at him wide. Sorry, the kid squeaks, shying away from him. There he is, he hears from the distance. Get behind me, Shouta orders, activating his quirk and stepping between the kid and the bullies, like he did at age 5, at age 9, and age 12, and age 16, age 22, and, well, all of his life, really. He will always get between bullies and their victims, always get between villains and civilians. Always, always, always. The bullies freeze at the loss of their quirks at the sight of Shouta, who scowls, and he takes note of their faces and their junior high uniforms. Congratulations, he tells them. You just lost whatever shot any of you had at getting into UA. He tries not to enjoy too much of the sheer vindictive pleasure at the sight of their bloodless faces. Why did you do that? The kid asks Shouta after the bullies are sufficiently dealt with. He scuffs his red sneakers on the ground, and he gazes at Shouta steadily through a mess of curly hair. Because you're a person with value who doesn't deserve to be bullied, he replies as he writes an email to Nezu on his phone. No one deserves to be bullied. No one is worth more than their quirk or lack of it. The kid stares at him with wonder in his eyes. No one's ever said that to me before. And Shota's heart breaks. They should have, kid, and I'm sorry that they were so limited in their understanding of the world to think otherwise. The boy blinks but laughs. It sounds slightly hysterical. Well, okay then. Are you thinking of applying to UA? The kid jumps but nods seriously. I want to go into the support course, but I don't think my record will let me in. What's your name? Akatani. Mikumo, the boy says hesitantly. Shouta pulls out one of the business cards he carries around and hands it over to Akatani. Email me some of your designs, and we'll see about ignoring your record. Seriously? The boy says, staring down at the card. Seriously. The world doesn't work like this, Akatani argues. Not for people like me. Shouta looks at the kid before him, messy brown curls tousled and eyes confused. He's right, of course. The world doesn't work like this. Shouta teaches that to his kids every single day. He also thinks of Midoriya, who spent most of his life in the exact same shoes as this kid, who needed someone to believe in him in order to soar. It should, he says wryly. Since it doesn't, though, sometimes we have to make it fair and kind for ourselves. Akatani blinks down at the card, but smiles at Shouta. You're weird, but nice, he decides as he pockets the card. Thank you, Eraserhead-san. Don't go to school for the next couple of days if you can swing it. I'll be sicking Nezu onto your school. Akatani grins a little viciously at that. Well, it'll be well-deserved at least. Shouta watches him go. Sometimes the world isn't kind, but that doesn't mean that people shouldn't be. Shouta returns home ready to faceplant into his couch. His phone is full of the latest cat pictures that Hisashi had sent him. Apparently he had some sort of social media contest on his show and is sending Shouta the fruits of his labor because his husband gets him. Bastard greets him at the door, yowling for more food and treats. Dinner will be incoming shortly. Probably within the next 2 hours, and Shouta can almost taste the omu rice that his husband's going to be bringing home as he takes out a jelly packet for himself and cat treats for Bastard. He slumps on the couch, Bastard content with the offering, while Shouta slurps a jelly packet and considers the ceiling. There will be other issues to deal with, from knowing about One For All. There will be other issues to deal with, unrelated to One For All, tomorrow and the weeks to come. There's talks to be had that loom in the immediate future about Midoriya and his legendary quirk, about Todoroki and his father, about Bakugo and his anger issues. Right now, however, Shouta has his problem child's trust, and that's all he can ask for at the moment. Rather than considering the future, however, Shouta takes a moment to just be in his life. He's in the apartment that he shares with a husband that he loves, a demon cat that is currently curled up at his feet sleeping. Dinner is on the way, and cat pictures are being sent to his phone by the minute. His kids are okay, or as okay as they can be. It's a moment of simple joy, quiet contentment, a moment that makes all the hardship and heartache of heroism worth it in Shota's opinion. He'll make sure that his students will get this knowledge of these perfect worth-it moments as well. Shouta breathes in and out. Eyes drift close. This is right, his gut tells him. And in the end, that's all that matters. All right, everyone. This concludes the entirety of the fic, The Mystery of Midoriya Izuku. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. This is one that I find myself consistently rereading a lot. Let me know your thoughts and reactions to this one below. If you have other recommendations for fics that are similar concepts or other ones that you really like, make sure to leave those below as well. And as always, thank you so much for listening.